and welcome to the August 2020 edition of the Star Business Solutions webinar series. Today we will be highlighting Expense Manager. Just a few housekeeping issues to start. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So what we would appreciate you doing is inserting your questions into either the chat box or the question box as you go, so you don't have to remember what you're thinking at the time, and we'll address all of those at the end of the session, and we'll have plenty of time to address any issues that you may have thought of. Today's presentation will go through a number of common business accounts payable pain points. We'll talk about Expense Manager, the product. We'll talk a little bit about return on investment for MYOB Advanced and Expense Manager. Have a bit of a demonstration, look at a couple of case studies, and then go on to Q&A. Today's presenters, obviously myself, I'll be hosting the discussion and presentation. Our guest presenters from Expense Manager are Philip Vella and Yasser Khalid, and we also have Eric Sara, General Manager from Star, as a panelist for the Q&A session at the end. So I'll now hand over to Philip and let him take it through the first few parts of the presentation. All yours, Philip.
Great, thanks for the introduction, Norman. You can see my screen there?
Yes.
Perfect. Look, thanks for the introduction, Norman, and a big thanks as well to the team at Star for obviously hosting the webinar this morning. Look, like Norman just said, my name's Phil from Expense Manager. I'm Channel Partner Manager. I'm going to be walking you through a quick presentation this morning before handing over to my colleague Yasser to do a live demonstration on our platform as well. First off, who are we? Expense Manager is a cloud-based expense and invoice automation platform. There are a range of modules on offer. Firstly, expense management, which includes staff out-of-pocket expenses, company credit card reconciliation, and mileage as well. We then also offer accounts payable automation and purchase orders all in the one place. Today, companies who are looking to adopt cloud-based applications are looking to gain efficiencies and benefits of being digital across a number of their business processes. And our value proposition has always been, why take three separate systems when you can get one complete spend management platform? You'll notice on my slide as well this morning that we've highlighted e-invoicing. E-invoicing is really the next wave in terms of AP automation, which will allow us to receive expense and invoice data directly from merchants, eliminating the need to OCR invoices entirely. It's sad to say, but 65% of mid-sized companies in Australia and New Zealand are still processing their expenses and invoices manually. CFOs today know that going digital is now an essential part of their process, and of course, COVID-19 has accelerated that, with companies needing to adopt work from home processes essentially overnight. Automation delivers benefits immediately across many pain points that companies have when managing spend manually. And it's not just benefits that are delivered to the finance team, but end users are also able to adopt modern business tools like mobile apps so they can concentrate on their core roles, not just shuffling paper. Aside from a range of financial reports, Expense Manager also includes an operational dashboard that gives our clients a near real-time view of the status of their entire accounts process. The dashboard allows companies to monitor a range of metrics. For instance, a snapshot of invoices that are due for payment, the on-time payment performance, the number of committed purchase orders and their value. The operational dashboard helps our clients to monitor and streamline their process by offering real-time insight to their data. When it comes to expense and AP processes, one of the greatest strains on costs and efficiencies is a high volumes of paper associated with a manual process. When processing invoices manually, They are often physically signed by managers for approval, then manually entered into the ERP system for payment. Industry experts and from our own experience in AP automation showed the dramatic difference processing an expense or invoice manually versus an automated process. If a company is processing 50 expense claims per month, that's a saving of $1,290 or $15,480 annually. Processing 500 invoices per month, it's a saving of $6,350 per month or annually $76,200. We can also provide you with a savings calculator so you can actually calculate the real costs it would take for your process, for your company to make a change to an automated process. Aside from the dramatic reduction in costs of labor and improvement in efficiencies, there are also a number of soft dollar benefits that also come in place when automating the process. Because it's a faster process, it raises a company's efficiency. Being digital eliminates document storage, and documents are available online at any time with easy access. Real-time visibility of staff expenses and supplier invoices. Errors are dramatically reduced, and fraud control is improved. It was revealed in 2021 in the Gartner survey that 82% of CFOs were committed to increasing their spend on digital transformation projects, and that 69% of the board of directors said that COVID-19 was a key driver to automate their processes. I'll now pass over to my colleague Yasir to walk us through a live demo of Expense Manager and also highlight our integration with MYB Advanced.
Thank you, Philip. Just gonna share my screen here. There you go. Thank you again, Philip, for sending that through. As I've been introduced, my name is Yasser, and I'm Business Development Manager here. I look after really anyone considering our system, particularly for that first leg where they're exploring how the system would cater to their specific needs. We'll be doing a bit of a generalized demo here today, but in particular, we'll look at how things link up with MYB Advanced. And after that, I'll sort of hand back to Philip. Now, a couple of quick notes on how the system gets set up. All of the data, field names, drop-down menus, chart of accounts, suppliers, users, we'll essentially import all of that into Expense Manager to set up a customized sort of database, if you will. And essentially moving on from that, we'll also today look at just three main users, which will be your claimant, the approver, and the payer. We'll kick things off first with Kylie, who's our claimant here. You'll see two windows on my screen here. So the first window over here is the mobile app, and the second window on the back is your desktop version, if you will. Now we'll kick things off first capturing receipts on this mobile app. So simply I'll log in as Kylie over here, and I log directly into the receipt screen over here, as you can see. Now, within the receipt screen, all I need to do is simply go onto that plus icon over here, and you'll see I've got multiple different options, meaning I can raise a purchase order, start a new reimbursement, new travel request, add a new travel account. But for this demo right now, I'll simply add in a new receipt over here. Now, when I've come on to that new receipt screen, basically, you can see all the different properties that I've sort of have got essentially set up for each user. Now, these are customizable. You can see some of them have pre-filled themselves automatically. So it automatically selects today's expense date. It'll pre-select based on the user, the entity, even the cost center. Now you can have these locked in, or you can have them essentially able to click through and change the entity if they do need to report to multiple entities or branches, if you will, for MYB Advanced users. And then the cost center generally translates to sub-accounts, if you will. And then, of course, expense type will translate to account or your chart of accounts. Now, as I was saying before, this list of chart of accounts is sort of uploaded and set up into Expense Manager beforehand. So essentially, when you're going live, you'll have access to all of your chart of accounts in here, at least the relevant ones per user and per cost center per branch, if you will. Now, simply, I'll hit that that camera icon on the top right over here. Clicking that would open into the camera app on the mobile, or of course the Photos app. But in this case, I'll simply come onto my files upload, if you will. So I'll simply select taxi 6283 cab charge invoice there. Now the receipt scanning has already pretty much started, but essentially we'll treat this one as a receipt that I'm capturing for a credit card claim. In Expense Manager, corporate cards automatically create expense items as the transactions are occurred. So for this one, for example, taxi 6283, I've just paid the bill. I've pulled my phone out. I've taken a picture of the actual receipt, and now all I need to do is do a little bit of coding. So I'll just select, for example, expense type taxis, and it automatically selects a project code that I've got running on at the moment, and you can nominate this at the user level. And then I'll provide a little bit more details in terms of what this trip was for. So for example, office to client A. Now you can require the expense type filled by the claimant at this stage, or you can sort of delay that to be picked up by the accounts team. So you can sort of nominate which of these fields are required, which of these fields aren't required. For this one, as it's just a credit card receipt, which will be auto matched with that transaction as it creates itself from the card feed, I'll simply hit save and let the scanning pick up the supplier, pick up the amount, and the rest of the information there, including the date. So now what I'll do is I'll add another receipt, but this time we'll treat it as a reimbursement claim. So simply hitting new receipt, and as you can see, again, the entity and the cost center and the expense state have been pre-filled. I will now just hit that camera icon. This time I'll select petrol 6348. Now that total receipt was for 6348, but let's say only $50 of that is actually reimbursable, which was the car's petrol. The other bit of that was, if you will, maybe some snacks, maybe some chips. So in that case, I'll simply enter the amount 50 here. That will supersede and override, if you will, any amount that's scanned in. And of course, the GST gets calculated based on what was typed in there. Of course, the date will still get picked up. The supplier will get picked up as well. But of course, you can sort of expedite that process since you're adding this to a reimbursement claim, which you might want to just be able to push through right now. So you simply type in that information. Now for this one, I'll select expense type petrol first, and you'll notice the project code automatically reverts to no project code 000, because this is a petrol expense for a shared car, if you will. Now for you can see for the petrol expense, you'll see there's just a description field that's available. But let's take an example where maybe this is a different expense type for which you'll need more information entered by the claimant. So let's switch this to domestic accommodation. You'll see automatically the number of fields at the bottom has sort of extended to include city, arrival, departure, and you can customize this as well. On that note, you can rename any of these fields to what you want them to be called. You can add custom fields as well, which can then be exported to MyHub Advanced if need be. And essentially, this will sort of help you capture the relevant bits of information for each expense type, which can be also translated obviously as chart of accounts. I will switch this back to petrol now and add this to an existing claim. Once I hit add to claim, you'll notice I've got a whole drop down of different options here. So these are all of my open claims at the bottom. So I've got one reimbursement, a couple of purchase orders. I've even got the option to create new claims directly from here. For this one, I'll just choose claim 3462, which is my existing reimbursement claim. Once I've hit add to claim, it goes straight to the reimbursement claim screen. Now within this, you'll see at the top, obviously, your relevant information, the header information, if you will. So you've got Kylie Magenta, who this claims belong to. It's currently not submitted. You'll have the total of the claim. Obviously, there's a description or a title, if you will, so you can change this to say reimbursement October 2020 as per the dates here. So claim periods can also be adjusted if you like, or you can lock these in. So if you run your claims month to month, and you don't want to give them the option to adjust that and sort of just have one claim coming in per month, sort of manage the workload for your accounts team, you can do that by limiting the claim periods. The approver, as you can see, is selected as John Red. Now this is Kylie's default approver. This is nominated at the user level when you're setting up the users. You can enable Kylie to click through and change this if you like, or you can have her also add multiple new approvers. These new approvers can also be added based off of specific triggers. So for example, if the amount goes over a certain amount, like let's say $500, Thomas would get sort of enrolled as an approver here, or Michael if it was over $5,000. In this case, we'll keep it to John Red, who will come in as into the system later as an approver. You'll see there's 3 items listed here. Got postage, petrol, and petrol. Now, essentially, this would also show you a little bit of budget visibility if you had that module enabled, where it would tell you at the bottom of this how much you've claimed against postage. So, for example, you've got 2 petrol expenses. If you've got a monthly budget set up for the entity here, you would be able to see that visibility as well. If I do click into a specific expense item, I'll see essentially at the bottom the receipt. I'll see all of the coding that I've got here. So if I want to make changes, I can hop from within this expense item to the previous one or to the next one. I will just go back into the reimbursement screen here. Now I can go into more and submit this claim now, but really quickly, I do want to show you the mileage expense as well. In many cases, that is very relevant. So for now, I'll save this, which will take me to the My Claims screen. And in the My Claims screen, you'll see I've got essentially more visibility. So I can see Kylie's claims, which ones are submitted, which ones are pending, which ones are approved. But from within here, I'll jump onto mileage at the bottom. I'll tap that to open a mileage claim. Very simply, I'll enter my starting point, my destination, and this will auto calculate the distance, apply a particular rate that's preset, and calculate the amount. Now, from here, I can simply add this to an existing claim, which is what I'll do. 3462 October 2020. We'll just save that in. And now that'll take me straight back to reimbursement 3462. Now you'll notice I can't submit this at the moment because for that mileage claim, although I've added it to this reimbursement claim, I haven't completed all the information that's required, which is why it's coming up as red. So I'll click through here and the system will tell me exactly what is required. So you can see I need a project code. In this case, I'll just do no project and I'll just type in a generic description. Also, you'll see it. I've got the copy of the map there. So now I'll be able to simply save that in. That's gone blue as well. I'll be able to simply go through and submit this to John for approvals. Now, if you remember, we saved that receipt in the essentially at first, which was for the credit card. We'll just cycle back to that. You'll see the scanning is automatically finished. It's updated the amount. It's updated the cab charge, tax invoice, supplier as well. But now we'll sort of pick up credit card claims on the desktop to show you essentially what Kylie's view would look from that side. So I'll just log out of here, use the same details to log in on the desktop. Once I've logged in here, I've got under pending approval, claim 3462. I'll go back onto not submitted. We can have a quick tour of the vault. This is essentially where all of your documents will live. So that's that taxi cab charge receipt that's come in. It's unclickable, not linked to a claim just yet. All the blue ones are clickable, and I can go straight to the claim that they're linked to. I can also email my receipts into this email address. Similarly, we'll visit invoices in just a quick second, and I'll be able to email all my invoices into the system over here. Now we'll go back onto that home page, which is my claims page for Kylie. Now within my claims, I'll pick up a card claim. So as I was saying before, corporate cards are linked to Expense Manager in a way that they automatically create all of your expense items. For any other cards and even for corporate cards, some do choose to upload them manually, say on a weekly basis. Essentially, these are your statements or your transaction summaries, which would then create the specific items for the specific user tied to that card. But what's really neat in Expense Manager is when you save that receipt like we did for that taxi cab charge receipt, it automatically finds the individual expense item based on the amount, based on the GST, based on a few other fields that we've selected and set up as well. So for example, for this expense here, this receipt was added manually into the system. It looks like a digital receipt, so it was actually emailed into the system to that receipt's email address. It was scanned in, and then this information was entered by the user just for the receipt within a couple of seconds. And then the rest of this information came either based on who the user was, so entity and cost center, or who essentially was the supplier for this expense based on the actual transaction feed from the card provider. Now, within this card claim, I'll look at a couple of examples. Number one, we'll consider how expenses can be split across multiple, say cost centers or sub-accounts, or maybe different branches. Say, for example, petrol. This could be for a shared asset, maybe like a shared car. I'll click through. This is your quick code view, but to be able to split this, I'll need to access my detailed coding view. So I'll click that number, bringing me onto this specific page where I have a lot more information on that specific expense item with the receipt still on the left over here. I'll simply be able to click split expense. And let's say I want to split this two-way across two different departments at Jim's Construction. So I'll simply click through here, maybe select Jim's Construction Marketing Team. And then when I hit this button over here, it'll split everything equally across the two. I can save this as a bookmark split, if you will. This could be petrol for company car. And I'll be able to access this for any future splits without having to do any specific coding. I'll simply go into the bookmark splits, and you can see I've got petrol for company car splitting saved to be automated. Now I'll go back onto that Amex card. Now we'll quickly consider the FBT treatment here. In Expense Manager, you have a built-in FBT wizard. So for example, if I go into the detailed coding view and select expense type entertainment, which would incur some FBT work, if you will, selecting entertainment automatically opens our FBT wizard here, which directly against that specific expense item lets you select and add specific recipients. So for example, in this case, I had a traveling employee who was Jenny, plus I had a couple of clients. Let's say client A, let's say client B. So you'll see there's two parts clients, one part traveling, one part non-traveling employee. This too can be saved as a group and then accessed essentially by adding an employee group. Meaning splitting for this can be pretty much automated and made efficient, if you will. So for example, this is monthly drinks with the team. You'll save that as a new group, and just with the click of a couple of buttons, you'll be able to add the whole group as recipients for this FBT. Now I'll simply add a project code here, as this is required fields, ABC, and now you'll see I'll go back onto the statement. Everything is nice and blue. Quick note on exceptions as well. Now, with exceptions, you can set them up to be automatically granted for certain cases. For example, in this case, I've got expense type travel service fee, and it'll tell you this was approved by below threshold, which is a workflow we've set up, which reads travel service fee expense under $25 and on a card claim, if you will. So it automatically approves that. Now, your employees, if they've lost receipts, unfortunately, that is something that happens. They can claim a manual exception as well. And then sort of need that approved manually by the approver. In this case, this card claim is now pretty much complete, so I will go ahead and submit this through. And now this will also go to John Red. Now, before we jump onto John Red for approvals, I will quickly show you what an invoice looks like in our system as well, and how that scans in, and how particularly that can be matched up with a purchase order. So for now, we'll pick up Nakama's tax invoice over here. I'll just click through here, pick that invoice up. Now within this invoice, you'll see there's only one line item, but I've got a tax invoice, the actual copy of the invoice within the system, so I can manually verify what's on here and what's scanned in if need to. Now, generally speaking, if a supplier is doing things the right way, they would put the actual purchase order number on the invoice, in which case Expense Manager would automatically scan that in. In this case, they didn't put it on here, so it wasn't scanned in, but I can still go ahead and select that purchase order manually. So for example, if I select purchase order here, unfortunately I haven't set up a purchase order here, but I'd be able to select that in, which would give me the variance and also tell me if this is pre-approved spend. In this case, since I don't have a purchase order here, meaning this isn't pre-approved spend, I would need to send it to approval to the approver, John Red, which is what I'll do here. So I'll simply go into actions and submit this through. Of course, I can click through like I did for any of the expense items on the claims. I can click through and change any of the coding as well. Now, this is considered a header level scan. Expense Manager also has the ability to scan each individual line item as well. And I'll submit this through and cycle back to an example of that with a different invoice. So direct queries tax invoice over here. This one's come in with multiple line items. So each of these specific line items is scanned into the system individually, including descriptions, quantities, specific price points, and all that information. Now, what I'll do is I will quickly log out of here and log back in as John Red, who is our approver. Show you what John Red can do and what he can see in the system as well. And then we'll move into the AP view. As John Red, as you can see, I've got that tax invoice from Nakama, that claim 3462, that Amex card claim as well. I will just click through that reimbursement claim now, I can click through, make any changes I need to any of the coding. Obviously, the amounts are locked in because that's part of the audit trail, if you will, because that amount was claimed by specifically Kylie. So if it needs to be changed, it would be done by Kylie. Now, in this case, you'll see John can also view all of the documents on the left, whereby he can verify the validity of these expenses and also look into the coding. If he's happy with everything, he'll simply approve this through to our accounts person. In our case, that'll be Jackie. And I'll log in as Jackie to show you how that view looks as well. So I'll approve this for now. And coming back onto the screen, I've got still the Amex card and the tax invoice, which also will approve. And I would be able to make the same type of edits if you like. And on the Amex card here, I will also approve this through. Now, if I did reject that, I'd be able to just simply send that back to Jackie, who would get it as a rejected claim, and of course, make the changes needed. We will now jump in as Jackie, who is our accounts person. And within Jackie's view, it comes straight to the pairs view, if you will. So you can see all three of those claims, if you will, have showed up in Jackie's system here. Now, within Jackie's system, let's go back onto, for example, that reimbursement. Now, if John read our approver here, it will tell me who the approver was. If he had left any notes, they would have come up here. I can still, as Jackie, go in and change the coding, because obviously accounts teams do tend to know what's best in terms of coding because they're closest to your ERP systems. You can have them sort of change any of these items, click through for the detailed coding view as well. And so for this case, for example, let's go back to the reimbursement. I will just finalize this one and come back in for the credit card claim and show you how we'll be able to pick up the individual things as well, such as the FBT work that we had put in, the splitting we had set up, or that exception. So within that Amex card claim coming from Kylie, Jackie, as the accounts person, is able to see that splitting. Now, if she needs to change up this splitting, she'll be able to do that within the system as well. So go back into here, click through here, make any changes she needs to. So maybe she knows that this needs to be picked up more so by finance, less so by the marketing team. She'll be able to make those changes. The amounts will then auto calculate themselves again. Simply hitting save. Now, also, if need be, Jackie is able to submit this for review, meaning she'll send it back to the claimant only. So it'll go back to Kylie in our case, and then come straight back to Jackie based on whatever the changes were made. So she'll be able to sort of mention what changes she needs to be made in the notes again. Or she can reject it, in which case it'll go back to the claimant, but also then come back by way of the approver. This could be something particular that she wanted the approver to pick up on as well, or it could be a major change that needs to be made. Maybe a couple of items are off, the goods haven't been received, or anything like that. In this case, I'll cancel that for now and just finalize that over here. Users, essentially our accounts payable pair users, can also finalize things from within the claim screen that they're coming to, or the payment screen that they're coming to. So they'll tick all finalize here. That's that tax invoice. Now we'll sort of essentially move directly into the exporting. So I'll select export claims over here. For MyOb, you have two types of exports. You've got your journal export and your bills export. Obviously, your reimbursement claims, your invoices are all going to be exported into MyOb as bills. And of course, your credit card can be exported as a bill if need be, but most cases it's exported as a journal entry. So I'll simply select a journal export for this one. You can nominate essentially a few dates and even a few more fields, if you will, to narrow down which ones you're looking at to export. So I'll simply list claims for export. You'll see here I've come up with actually two. I only want this one, which is, say, my card claim. So I'll export claim here. And now within this screen, it's listing exactly which claims are part of this export. It's only the one card claim that I've processed today. So I'll simply send to MyOb. That'll push straight into MyOb over here. We'll just wait for that to read the system. Now, within essentially the exporting screen, you'll see that that's gone green, meaning it's actually pushed into MyOb now. I'll be able to click that through and actually jump into MyOb over here. I'll simply be prompted to sign in again. Or of course, if you've already got signed in a system there, you'll go straight to the screen. I will sign in over here as myself, log into MyOb Advanced. which will show you now in just a couple of seconds the journal entry that I've created. So journal transactions, I've come in with all of my card transactions here. You can see every second line, if you will, is a GST line. If I scroll all the way to the right, you'll see there's a actual clickable link that'll take me back to the specific invoice item or expense item, if you will, within that claim. So for example, if I click that one, it'll take me back into Expense Manager to that specific Amex card, to that specific expense, where I'll be able to look at specifically more information or particularly the copy of the document. Essentially, in MyHub Advanced, everything is coding where you'd expect it to go, really. So you'll see essentially the dates that, so for example, for the dates property, that's actually rather customizable. You may be able to post based on the first expense on the card claim, or maybe the claim periods, essentially start date or end date, or maybe even the posting date. So you'll be able to sort of nominate which fields you want to import into MyHub Advanced. Now I will cycle back to exporting the actual the bills as well. So I'll simply list the exports for the bills. In this case, I've got my reimbursement and my Nakama invoice. I'll export both of those. Now when I send to MyHub, since I've got two specific claims here, you'll see this will go green, and I'll have a unique export reference link for each, which I'll open both in this case. Since I'm already logged into the system, it won't require me to log back in. But this is a bill, for example, for the reimbursement. You'll see the supplier is selected as Kali Magenta, who's a user of Expense Manager, but she's auto-selected here, if you will. And in this case as well, I've got a document link that's sitting up here this time. So when I click this, it'll take me back to the unique claim. For the invoice from Nakama, I've got the supplier selected as Nakama. Also, I've got that document link. And of course, as you'd expect, all the items and amounts are posting where you'd basically expect them to go. Obviously, we've done this a fair few times. But that sort of is a quick run through of the demo. It is very generic. Of course, you're more than welcome to come through for a more detailed demo with us, where I'll be able to guide you through the system and show you exactly how your sort of setup would look in here. For now, what I'll do is I'll pass back to Philip as soon as I can make that happen within the webinar, and that'll essentially be it from my end for now. Thanks, of course, for pushing through that demo with me.
Great, thank you, Yussi. Businesses like to buy locally, and we develop deep and strong relationships with our clients. For example, our very first beta client was KFC International, and they're still one of our clients today. Being here on the ground means our clients have a local and personal implementation, plus the benefit of ongoing local support. In fact, everything we do, from sales, implementation, development, and support, is right here onshore. If you need to speak to us at any time, simply pick up the phone and we're here. Here's a quick testimonial from an existing MYB Advanced site, Sole Origin, plus some other household names that trust Expense Manager alongside staff to automate their business processes every day. You're in good company. We have clients across a range of industries and verticals. We've been successful in the not-for-profit, food retail, plus service and consulting industries, just to name a few. Our offer to anyone from the webinar today, if you were to sign up to Expense Manager following the webinar, we would offer the first month free of charge. Plus, as an obligation, obviously more than welcome to reach out for a one-on-one demo. That way our sales team can get to know your business and your current processes and how Expense Manager could possibly assist. Also, I did mention earlier in the presentation the ROI calculator. So if you would like to actually get some real numbers and the actual saving for your company by managing your processes online by Expense Manager, more than welcome to reach out to get that calculator as well after the webinar.
Okay, thanks for that, Philip, and yes, sir. I've seen it before, but every time I see it, I pick up a few extra bits and pieces. The first question I've got here is, who does the integration, Star or Expense Manager? That's from Philip, and I suppose maybe Philip, you might be the best person to answer that.
Yeah, happy to tackle that one. So Expense Manager will work with you directly to obviously do the implementation. We do work with Star as well to get the integration up and running. That way, like you saw in the demo just before from Yasir, the integration is directly with the API. So all of our data is sent straight through. And again, we'll work with Star to get that integration up and running.
Right, okay, thanks for that. This question's from Maria. I think actually Yasir might have covered it, but I'll ask it anyway. Can I view receipts and invoices in advance? Would you like to answer that, Yasir?
Yes, Norman, thanks. Yeah, so Maria, thanks for the question. You'll be able to have a direct link back into Expense Manager from within MyOp, whereby you'll simply click that link. It'll open it in the same browser in a new window to that specific claim or that specific expense item as well, essentially to go back to that receipt.
Right, okay, thanks for that, Maria. Next question. How much does Star get involved within setting up Expense Manager? Eric, maybe you can answer that one.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you. Ultimately, as much as you like. As Phil said, it's really a lot of it's done on the actual Expense Manager side of things. However, as Star often knows your business quite well, we're more than happy to be involved as much as you like us to be. But we've had plenty of customers implement Expense Manager with very little involvement from ourselves. And then we've had others who have had us quite involved all the way through.
Okay, thanks. Next question. What licensing do I need in advance? Eric, that's probably one for you as well.
So, within Advanced, you need an API license. Now, when you get Advanced, you actually get a limited API license, which does about 1,500 calls a day. As in that's the maximum cap. MYOB measure that, and if you go over that a couple of times, then they basically take you up to a full API user. That full API user has no limits of how many API calls would happen. So we have a lot of people sort of start out on the limited just to see what their usage is going to be, and then they might elevate to an actual API user. That is a normal, sort of somewhat a normal user, generally a little bit cheaper, but an actual license you would pay for in your subscription.
Right. Okay. And another question from Maria. How can you tell if it's a user or an expense manager created transaction? Yes, sir, or Eric? Yep.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one again, Norman. So that particular API user, when you set it up, has a name. We often call it, say, Expense Manager. So when the transactions are posted through from Expense Manager into MYOB Advanced through the API, it uses that API user and stamps the transactions with that user's name. It's also why we recommend that if you do have more than one integration, it's best to actually have different API users so that you actually understand where the transactions are coming from.
Okay, thanks for that. I can't see any more questions listed. If anyone does have any further questions after you sit and think about the presentation today, then please feel free to email me direct, and I'll arrange for the appropriate answer for you and respond. If you would like to see Expense Manager demonstrated a bit further in more detail, then also please feel free to email me direct, and I can arrange through Eric for that to occur for you. Doesn't matter if you're an existing Star customer or not. We can certainly organise for the demonstration. I'd like to thank everyone for your time today. Hopefully you have gained some knowledge from how Expense Manager can work with MYOB Advanced, and it is of interest to you. And we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar next month. And on behalf of Philip, Yasser, Eric and myself, a Star and Expense Manager, thank you for your time today. Goodbye.